Host Robert Butler here. A lot to talk about tonight. I'm going to miss a few stories because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming for me. Congratulations. I just read the Atlanta Braves made it to the NLCS. I don't even know who's going to be in the ALCS, whether it's going to be at Boston or whoever. A lot to get to tonight. Texas A&M knocking out Alabama. Huge win right there. Predicted that back in the summer, folks. Get into that. Mark Stoops. He's probably going to become a coach to be talked about in the college game, I think, for other jobs, maybe the USC job, perhaps. That's the head coach of the Kentucky football team there, University of Kentucky. Great, excellent play and coaching job that he has done there. Also, folks, going to talk about the Cleveland Browns, the lack of defense. There's a lot this team has to address now and possibly as the season goes along. Justin Herbert got a huge compliment, from a legendary football coach. But first, let's talk about John Gruden, okay? John Gruden is... For those of you who hadn't been following this, I saw something about this. I want to say last Friday, about John Gruden and some kind of email investigation that the league was doing with the Washington football team. Now, Washington's always getting investigated for something, right? Ever since this guy took over, Daniel Snyder, back in 2000, it seems like they're getting investigated for one thing after another. And there were some emails leaked, and it got talked about over the weekend. Some comments that he made about Damaris Smith, who is the Players Association representative, all that good stuff. But just to give you another update on a catch up with what went down on this morning, Tom Peresrio, and I'm pretty sure I'm jacking his name up, was with the NFL Network. He talks about this, and then I'll give you my opinion, which is different from everybody else's. I've learned a lot of opinions here. Political theater, yeah, we'll get into the political theater. Excuse me. It's almost the same now. But sports personalities, all the theater, the fake outrage, it's a riot. The hypocrisy is a riot. But this is Tom Pelissero, excuse me. I always get this guy's name mixed up. He's with the NFL Network talking about everything that went down. This was this morning on Good Morning Football on John Gruden's situation.
The gay player Michael Sam drafted and protests during the national anthem.
Wait a minute. Sorry.
Okay, John Gruden defended himself after the Wall Street Journal on Friday reported an email Gruden had sent back in 2011 when he worked at ESPN, in which he used a racist trope to describe NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith. Gruden said those were personal emails, not ever meant to become public, and he does not have a racist bone in his body. The NFL on Friday provided additional emails to the Raiders that the league had collected as part of the Washington football team workplace investigation. The league was seeing whether the Raiders would take action, but Gruden continued to coach on Sunday against the Bears. Then about 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday, the New York Times published an additional trove of Gruden's emails, in which over a period of years he used homophobic and misogynistic language, expressed negative feelings about the rise of women officials, the NFL's push to have a gay player, Michael Sam, drafted, and protests during the national anthem. Within the hour, Gruden had met with Raiders owner Mark Davis as well as...
And he resigned. Okay, so that's basically a little bit of a heads up there. So I don't know why that the New York Times published them. Why would the NFL not handle all this internally and not leak this to the New York Times? Nobody has answered that question. I've been reading everything on this all day. Now, what's, him resigning like that is, there's a lot of people that have different opinions about this. And mine is that this team is on the path. Let's forget about all the offensive stuff, okay, that he said in these emails. This team is on the same path that they were on last year and the year before that. You say, what do you mean? I say a team that starts off really hot and then they start to go downhill. They were 3-2 last year, didn't make the playoffs, finished 500. Year before that, same thing. And I looked at and Gruden is coming on year 4. Okay, he's coming on year 4 of this $100 million 10-year, 100 highly publicized contract. Okay, they have not drafted. They not hit well on drafts. He has player personnel control. Mark Davis had a low self-esteem. When he brought in Davis or Gruden, so he really wanted to sweeten the pot as much as he can. A lot of NFL owners do this. The owner of the Seattle Seahawks with Mike Holmgren did this, and it never worked. So Gruden, you coming in year 4, he knew that he was going to have to make a tough decision this year. He was going to be asked to probably fire Mike Mayock, his personally appointed, hired general manager that really he's doing the picks for. And he's going to be asked to relinquish that power after this team goes downhill like they have been the last few years. Okay? And he looked at that and he thought about all this money he's made. And he's thinking to himself, this is eventually going to lead to me probably getting canned, because if we bring in a new general manager and we bring in another set of players, I'll probably survive next year, but I can save face. I can use this big PR nightmare for my brand as a coach and a TV personality. So I'm not even going to fight this. I'm just going to resign. If you look at Gruden, he's gained weight. He looks stressed. He looks like the president after they get done. You know, you can tell. Same kind of thing with Urban Meyer. He's looking like he's aging more. His hair's getting great every year. You know, the stress is really starting to get to him. So I think that he just didn't fight it. He just said, you know what? That's fine. That's a perfect out for me. I don't have to do it. Because remember, last year he fired his defensive coordinator. So that's my take on this. That's my take on the resignation. The other thing I have is the fake outrage, the crocodile tears that Randy Moss did on Countdown on Sunday, and guys like Jason Whitlock called him out for it. All the little tweets from the NFL and oh my God, workers and media people from ESPN, the NFL, Keyshawn Johnson. I knew this guy was a bad guy the whole time. And I thought to myself, and then what really got me, because there's this notion out, and what I'm saying may be true. What I'm about to say may be true, that he was pushed out by the NFL. He was pushed out by Roger Goodell. There was some homophobic slurs that Roger Goodell's brother supposed to be gay or something. I don't know, something of that nature. Okay. If that is true, which if you're the NFL, you really don't want that to be true because of the misogynistic comments and all that stuff, because the NFL has let players like Michael Vick come back into the league. Not the fact that he sent emails to anybody talking about killing dogs, but for killing dogs. And then the PR storm started today, right? Then he gets taken, John Gruden, gets taken out of the Tampa Bay Ring of Honor. They take him. That's a big thing. Tampa Bay puts it on their little press release thing. And then somebody says, well, you've got Richard Sherman, who is currently awaiting a court case for domestic abuse, Pickles. And you've got Antonio Brown, who's being sued for sexual assault. He's been arrested multiple times. Okay? And I got to thinking, what if we publish all of Randy Moss's personal text messages and emails? Could he still work for ESPN? Could anybody else in the National Football League actually play if we had this same air quote standard, this cancel culture at its best? Could we field a team? Could Roger Goodell, if this is true, that he was pushed out because of this, could he still be the commissioner if we publish from 7 to 10 years ago his personal text messages and emails that were air quote meant to be private? I'm all about forgiveness, folks. I don't condone any of this stuff. I don't curse on this show, and I can curse on this show. I try not to curse in my text and emails. But I've said off-color stupid stuff, and so have you. And so have you. And so have these people clutching their pearls, the same people that say they forgive Antonio Brown. They forgive, and I forgive Antonio Brown and Michael Vick. But he gets a second $100 million contract, Michael Vick. In the NFL, when he killed animals, precious animals, the Pickle says it was probably leaked by the NFL. Nobody could survive. My thing is, you couldn't field a 53-man roster. Honestly, you probably wouldn't have a coach to coach the team, and you probably couldn't get 11 starters on offense and 11 starters on defense if we went down this road to leak everybody, all 1,700 players in the NFL's personal text messages and emails, all the coaches and their assistants. A lot of those are former players, personal text messages and emails. All the corporate NFL front office people, even DeMaurice Smith. So let's not go down that highway. But again, I think if he wanted to fight it, I would have advised him, if I were the commissioner, I would advise John Gruden, if he wanted to save his job, which I don't think he really did. I really don't, Pickles. I don't think he really did. I think the stress got too much. He just said, great, this is a get out of jail free card. I would have said, make another public apology, TV interview, knock that out. It's going to be a distraction, but just get it over with. Find somebody, whatever. Donate to LGBTQ causes and all these different organizations, these nonprofits. Take some sensitivity classes and let everything, maybe take a fine from the NFL and then move on. And then I think if he really wanted to keep his job, which I don't think he did, but if he could have done that, and I think he would have been fine. There was a Riley Cooper, the guy that made some racist comments, and Kenny Chesney concert. He had to do some stuff like that. He finished the season. Michael Vick forgave him, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. He forgave him, So I'm against cancel culture. I'm pro forgiveness. Now, some things, quite frankly, we talk about women. Joe Mixon, I like the Joe Mixon story, a redemption story. But he knocked a woman out in college on camera, okay, at Oklahoma. But he did get suspended for a season. He paid his dues. He's currently in the NFL. He was running the ball for the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. So give me a break. And to really put a bow on all this. And by the way, John Gruden through 3 seasons, 22-31. He was on his way out. It was a sinking ship. But Jason Whitlock had a priceless, priceless Pickles tweet about this, and it was a slam dunk. He says, I wonder if anyone at the NFL offices is listening to who's going to be in the halftime show this year, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, or Eminem album, and compared them to John Gruden's emails. Eminem made a video about killing his baby's mom. H word and B word. And I listened to these guys as a kid. I was a teenager in those years. H word and B word. So Eminem had to bring his homophobic language was so he got so criticized for some of his homophobic lyrics in one of his songs that he actually brought Elton John on stage to play the piano during one of his during a music award. I think it was MTV Music Awards one year. It's about 18 years ago. So, well, he and all of his homophobic and misogynistic comments is headlining your halftime show, Pickles. Yeah. So let's call a spade, okay? Let's stop with the theater. Let's stop with that. Everybody's human. I'm human, and so are you, and so are them, okay? He's a colorful icon, colorful music, but he's also very violent speaking. But I'm just talking in regards to the way the air quote corporate NFL views this stuff. So let's call a spade, okay? Let's call the fakeness for what it is, all right? So I want to get all that stuff out of the way. Like Forrest Gump said, that is all I have to say about that, okay? All right. Oh, so there's a thin line, folks, between, I want to make sure, this is what I wanted to start off the program with before all this Gruden stuff broke down last night. Between reckless, smart, and timid. There is just listen back to it, Brian. There's a thin line between reckless, smart, and timid. And the great coach of UCLA, Pickles, used to say, John Wooden, play fast, but don't get in a hurry. And I saw a lot of timid football over the weekends. A lot of coaches calling three coaches, Pickles. 3 coaches instructing their quarterbacks to call running plays on 3rd and long with the game on the line. Zach Taylor up here in Cincinnati, 3rd and 10. 3rd and 10 calls a running play on first down, going into overtime, deep in the 4th quarter, twice. Calling running plays on 3rd and 10. You know, the missed extra points. The other coach on the other side, Matt LaFleur, with Aaron Rodgers, going for the field goal on 3rd down, and then Mason Crosby misses the field goal. And last but not least, Baker Mayfield, Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. Same thing, 3rd and 10. Deep in the 4th quarter, you blow a big lead, and then you call so that was timid. Reckless. Okay, who's reckless? All right. Reckless is being up 15-6 at home. The Carolina Panthers have the Philadelphia Eagles not moving the ball held them to 6 points, and Sam Darnold has 3 interceptions with that big lead, forcing the ball to DJ Moore. This is a thing with him. Running in the end zone, head down, not looking up, putting yourself in position to get concussed. Same thing, Daniel Jones, reckless. Sam Darnold threw the ball 2 times to the same cornerback side, Darius Slay, and got picked off twice, Pickles. You know, and that's he's a reckless player. And I would tell him, if I'm Matt Rule, I'd say, listen, let me tell you something, man. I understand you want to play hard, you want to make the play. I get it. We're here to win too. But the film don't lie. If I see you force that ball one more time when we're up like this, I will bench you, even if it costs me my job. Even if I will bench you. Marty Schottenheimer. I don't agree with rest his soul, God rest Marty, the coach of the San Diego Chargers. Then, when Drew Brees first came into the league, he says, "I don't care where we drafted you. I don't care what the owner says. If you throw another interception, I'm going to bench you. I know you're talented. You are reckless with that football." And he cut it down. He cut it down, and then he got much better at, the rest is history. The guy's a Hall of Famer. But these coaches are way, way too ginger with these players. I mean, that is way too gingerly. Same Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones with his fumbling problems, he knew he couldn't make it to that end line, and he's running. That guy had a beeline on him, and he got concussed, and they were still competitive, but they lost that game. He's reckless. You look at the fumbles that he has, anybody dives head first in the end zone or run a quarterback that does not have their head down and cannot see, you are putting yourself in position to get concussed. And then when you get concussed, part of ability, guys, is availability. I'm telling you, I would tell these guys that's reckless like that, don't try me as a coach. Now, I'm telling you, and if the owner wants to fire me, fire me. But this player is reckless, and I will put another player in there. I mean, he was flat out reckless, okay? Smart play was Justin Herbert, and I'll read you the stat line here in a little bit. He takes what the defense gives him. He's got the howitzer of an arm, but he takes the underneath stuff. Same thing with Brady, another huge, I want to say, 5 touchdowns, something like that. He will always take what the defense gives him. He never tries to, when he rushes, he gets underneath and pushes forward. He never extends the ball across the goal line. That's reckless also. That ball gets knocked out of your hand at the touchback the other way. That's a 7. That could be a 10-point swing. That could be a 10-point, 14-point swing. And it's just those coaches like Levin talks about, Pickles talks about Coach Parcells. He'll throw up on your own time. Well, that's that. Those guys would coach the reckless out of you. So if you keep playing like this, play smart, play fast, but don't get in a hurry. I think there was a lot of injuries this weekend where players, they just wanted to, Saquon Barkley, they were faster than, their minds were moving faster than their bodies were, if that makes any sense. And I think that's just lack of practice time. That's lack of preseason. I feel like a lot of the injuries are players who were still in week 5, guys. They're still not up to par speed-wise. There's got to be a statistic on that. There's a statistic on everything of how many injuries there are each year. But timid, there's a thin line between timid, reckless, and smart football. And you have to stay within those boundaries if you want to become successful. Tony Gonzalez said only 4% of NFL players want to get better and really, really and truly want to win. The rest of them want the money, the fame, the glamour. These guys wearing these necklaces that are getting ripped off, expensive, and playing a football game, wearing a gold necklace, and diving in the end zone. So that is a lot of what I saw coming in. Buffalo, Kansas City. I will say this. That was predicted from here on Sports Scope. Buffalo, I read this. Buffalo only blitzed one time. That tells you how good that their front four is. They only blitzed one time, and I can't count how many times. Also, I noticed that Patrick Mahomes was the leading rusher for Kansas City. Buffalo ran the ball more. So they're proven to be the real deal. Now they've got to play at Tennessee next week. But I was really impressed with this 38-20 on the road, delay involved and everything, you name it. Allen. Now he was still the leading rusher, but there was two running backs combined that did lead for more. So, but his rushing attempts were down, but they didn't have to blitz anybody. Buffalo didn't have to blitz anybody. And you know what? I would probably put them slightly ahead of Arizona because I like the coaching better with Buffalo. Slightly, though. Not that many penalties. But I'll say this, going back to Cleveland. Now, Justin Herbert, 26 for 43, 398 yards, 4 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 122, QBR of 84.9. And this is what Jimmy Johnson, this is from the Colin Cowherd show. This is what former head coach Jimmy Johnson said about, if I get it to come up here, sometimes when I said about the great, or soon to be great in his mind, Justin Herbert. If I can get the play up here, guys, just stand by.
Holmes, but he inherited Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and a good O-line, and then Alex Smith, and he was allowed to slowly learn the system. Justin Herbert, here's the keys. Line's bad. Not sure if the coach works. Good luck. That's different. Jimmy Johnson this weekend on Justin Herbert.
The Chargers, they've got a star at quarterback, Justin Herbert. 6 touchdown passes in the red zone the last couple of weeks. And in fact, if I was drafting in the NFL today, of all the players, my number one pick would be Justin Herbert. He's that big a star.
Over Mahomes?
Over Mahomes.
He's bigger and strong.
Bigger, stronger. Now listen, Justin Herbert had a 4.0 biology major in college. Now, Herbert did not look good in spots at Oregon. They did. The coaching wasn't there. Cristobal's done a good job recruiting. They beat Ohio State this year, but the coaching was not there. He hesitated too much. I can't believe this guy's that much better than he was coming out. Jimmy Johnson saying that, hold on, guys, let me change this out. Okay. All right. So Jimmy Johnson was saying that he would take him number 1 overall and everybody. Now, right now, I'll probably put Allen as my MVP, but Herbert's right there. And I expected this. I expected him to go to the playoffs. Rashawn Slater, 1 sack. 1 sack. Doesn't necessarily look good every game either. Yeah, he's not as good as Allen. Allen was a little bit quicker, I think, and a little bit stronger arm, but Herbert is 6 touchdowns in the red zone the last 2 weeks. That's pretty good, And putting up 47 on Cleveland like that, coming off a Monday night game, was almost flawless football. If you're a Dallas fan, it tells you how good Dallas is playing right now. Holding them to 17 points. I want to say that Dallas held them to. But it was between Herbert and Allen, that could be the AFC Championship game, you know. But I'll say this. The Browns, going back to the other side of the coin there, they were up 27-13 going into the fourth quarter. I know that Jadeveon Clowney was a late scratch in this game. Yeah, Herbert, Burrow, did take a hit. Rodgers told him not to dive head first. He has a tendency to play reckless. That's why he's coming off. Brian said, let me put this up here. Brian said, you're talking about injuries earlier. I was thinking about Joe Burrow and a hit he took. Herbert, Rodgers told him that you shouldn't put your head down like that. He's also got some reckless. That's why he's coming off that injury, and he's playing for a bad organization. He's got to be careful. The talent is there. The talent is definitely there. Yeah, Dak is in the MVP talk. It's going to Dak will probably get comeback player of the year, Brian. Dak Prescott. But going into this game, okay. Browns 27-13. All that money on defense. All that money on the secondary. Malik Jackson, Jadeveon Clowney. Bringing in all these guys in here. And you give up 47 total points. You blow that third quarter 27-13 lead. Best offensive line in football. You know, a lot of this was on Mayfield not making the plays, but this is the second year of this defensive coordinator. To build a championship, you have to plug and play moving parts, and you have to make the right moves at the right times. For instance, this guy, Joe Woods, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm having a private conversation. I said, man, you got to fix this. You got to fix this. I know where our ratings are. We are not playing up to par from the defensive side. We have a defensive player of the year quality of player in Myles Garrett here. You know, we have a better player for player secondary than they do, other than Darwin James. But player for player secondary, Greedy Williams, Denzel Ward, we got some players back there. We got better linebackers. They're just deep everywhere. And Joe Woods, second-year guy, Green Bay, they've improved defensively. They really have improved. They're like top 10. So this guy's going to be looked at. And if they continue to give up big leads like this, and they're a mediocre team, number one, you don't extend Baker Mayfield. You look for his replacement, or you say you're worth anywhere from $8 to $18 million. You're not worth $45 million. We're not going to pay you $45 million because you, Baker Mayfield, cannot make the plays when the game's on the line. You have to milk a big league and be a game manager, and we don't pay game managers $45 million a year. And Joe Woods, we don't put all this money in the defensive depth to give up 47 points to anybody in the NFL. So this has to be looked at. This is a special team coming in. I don't think they're overrated. If you look at these analytics, you look at your Pro Football Focus stats and data, they're saying that Cleveland should be and Cleveland may very well. They've got to play Arizona. By the way, Chandler Jones tested positive for COVID. I don't know if he's vaccinated or not. The best pass rusher for Arizona. They play at Cleveland. This is a big game for Cleveland because Baltimore won last night. But, that's got to be looked at. That is, speaking of Ravens, I'm a big critic of Lamar Jackson. He is made the plays. He had a well of a game last night. He showed mental toughness last night. He showed maturity last night. I call balls as strikes. If it's ball strike, I'm going to call a ball strike. When he fumbled that ball and it went up a 3-score lead. Guy for the Colts got it, and they came all the way down the other side. They did not score a touchdown, the Colts, to really blow it open. He did fumble that ball. They did go back. A lot of players would fold after something like that. He didn't. He hung in there and destroyed that Colts secondary down the stretch. They were down 22-9, banged up on defense, and it could not be stopped. I mean, from that point on to the end of that game, Jackson, 4 touchdowns. He had a QBR. I had a rating of 140. He actually had a better game than the other guys. But I know how banged up the Colts were coming into that game. You know how they've been struggling. But he also carried a yard for 62 yards. But he had a well of a game. And I got to call it like I see it with Lamar. You know? Yeah. Baltimore has got a lot of last week I talked about Baltimore, Brian. They're the best organization as far as player drafting and development. Over the past 5 years, they've got the most wins. They're 5th in most wins on the past 20 years. And they haven't had a Hall of Fame quarterback level player. We're talking Kyle Bowler, Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco had one really good year. Very good organization. Lamar has made a lot of adjustments to his game. He's figuring out how not to get hurt. He's got a little bit more touch on the football with those injuries. Nothing but kudos to him and the organization and John Harbaugh. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I feel like Cleveland's slightly better on paper, but the games aren't played on paper. And it's going to be a heck of a showdown when these two teams play. You know, I haven't wrote Cleveland off completely. I still think they'll get better. I think they could rebound and knock out Arizona this week. But it just seems like that they're not living up to their potential. And they are really, really not living up to their potential. But Baltimore's going to be right there. And they're going to get healthy. Eventually, they're going to get Ronnie Stanley back. Now, I know that Pittsburgh made a run like that 3 years ago about your bumping first. Yeah, sure did. And let's see. Other NFL news and notes, guys. So we talked about Kansas City. We talked about the Browns, the Ravens, smart versus reckless. So if I'm talking to a player, I say, listen, man, just keep your head on the swivel. It's better to live to do the next down. Okay, don't be reckless with the football. Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. Part of ability is availability. Okay, being timid is playing scared. People see that. You just got to think when you're out there. It's easier said than done. But you have to train your mind to think. And a lot of that, guys, has got people like Tom Brady. It's because they're prepared. They're prepared for their opposition, you know? College football. Okay. If you guys watch this program pretty steadfast like you, Brian, and Pickles, you know that in the SEC, I made a prediction in July of this year, that the Texas A&M would beat Alabama because it's at Texas A&M, and Alabama would have to play the week prior, which they did. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss team, very emotional game, very good quarterback, and Matt Corral. Last year, they put 48 points on Alabama. Now, this past year, they got beat 42-21. But making all those predictions, you know, what's this guy's name? Haynes King, I think is his name. Yeah. Haynes King, 100-meter guy, got hurt in the Colorado game for Texas A&M. And so they dropped 2 in a row. They being Texas A&M. They lost to team that's overplayed themselves, played above their talent rate. Arkansas beat them. And then they lost to Mississippi State. So people kind of left them for dead, including me, Texas A&M. But being that they only lost 1 game last year, and that was to Alabama. So I saw them coming. I saw them coming about. And, of course, they won Saturday. And now that they're still in this thing, the teams that are ahead of them, they get to play them head up. And Alabama, keep an eye out for Alabama. They got to go to Mississippi State and play them off of a bye week, coming off that emotional Texas A&M. I think it was an overtime game, right? All that being, and then the Texas A&M football team, school, they were fined $100,000 for running onto the field, to letting all the students run onto the field. Beautiful moment. Didn't see all of it. I crashed pretty early. But that's why A&M fans and A&M Nation donors, that they paid 10-year, $75 million contract to Jimbo Fisher. Because in year 4, they want moments like what happened Saturday to beat Alabama. You know, that's why Kirby Smart got his money. And now Georgia fans may get that wish come December. Because right now, if Alabama runs the table, they're going to play for the SEC championship game. And again, if JT Daniels is the quarterback, if he gets healthy, which I'm not sure he's going to be healthy, that I think that they will. If it's Stetson Bennett, whatever, the clone guy, I think Alabama can get past them and get into it. But so now they have a Zach Calzada, Texas A&M does, settling in, playing quarterback. They have as good enough chance as anybody, A&M, to run the table, get into the SEC championship, and even beat a Georgia team if Stetson Bennett's the quarterback. Okay? Not being timid. I've got to take my hats off to Lincoln Riley. Okay? He made a bold move, a great game. Texas, that was the best Texas-Oklahoma game I've ever seen. It also helps when you got a little money on Oklahoma in a parlay, right? I'm watching the game. It comes on. I get my good workout in, get a good run in, all this stuff. Go home, take a shower, get me some good Outback Steakhouse. But I'm disappointed. I'm watching Texas. They were up 28-7 at one point, I want to say, against Oklahoma come Saturday. And Spencer Rattler, what I've been saying, now he's timid. He's also timid. Like the line in the great hit movie, The Program, Brian, if you remember that one from the early 90s. It was really a movie portraying Florida State, but they didn't want to say they was portraying Florida State. It was ESU instead of FSU. And he was a Heisman front runner coming into the season. And I felt like Spencer Rattler was pressing. He was pressing in that he was pressing in that game. I mean, he had an awful interception. And he had a fumble. He was trying to do too much and rather just letting the game come to him. So Lincoln Riley pulls a semi, not a full, but a semi Nick Saban. And he pulls Rattler out. And then he puts freshman sensation, but true freshman from my understanding, Caleb Williams in, I want to say. Caleb Williams in, Riley down 3 scores, epic game, and they win. It's got to be just the straw loss for Steve Sarkisian, first-year coach for Texas. But that was a well of a game by Oklahoma, keeping them in the national championship hunt. That's the same thing every year, I seem like, every week, particularly every year, that they have to get better on defense. You know, I don't know if they can get to the national championship game with the true freshman, but they're still going to be in it with this guy. They got a lot of playmakers. They got the scheme. They got the coaching. We'll see. Another really impressive performance that caught my eye that nobody's talking about, but everybody's talking about the USC job. USC fired their coach. It was an easy call. But there was a guy way over here in Lexington, Kentucky. Mark Stoops. Kentucky is now 6-0, Brian. 6-0, Pickles. I can't remember, Brian, if all of them are. I think they are. Let's see. Texas. Brian's asking me, are my playoff teams intact? Yeah, Texas A&M, yes, big win. Oklahoma didn't lose, yes. I don't know if I had Georgia in or not. No, I think I may have had Clemson. Yeah, Clemson done. So Alabama, I didn't have Clemson. That will probably could go to Ohio State. They're winning when I thought they wouldn't be winning. So Iowa, big win for Iowa. Good comeback win there. But Mark Stoops, okay. Kentucky, I'm out of Tennessee. Tennessee beat Kentucky like 28 years in a row. Florida, until 2018, Stoops has been there since 2013. Florida has beaten University of Kentucky 31 straight years before 2018. He snapped a 31-year losing streak to Florida back then. In Florida, by the way. And fast forward to this year. Kentucky is the bottom. They're playing against top-notch NFL talent just about every week, except when you play Vanderbilt and now Arizona. But just, you're playing Florida, Tennessee, Georgia every single year. That don't count the West. Alabama, LSU. So 2 weeks ago, this really tough Florida team was beat by Kentucky. The Florida team that took Alabama to 2 points. 2 points. Kentucky beat them up in Lexington. Last Saturday. Normally, that's a big win for a school like Kentucky. The very next week, Brian Pickles, when a team of a college, particularly a college team, when they have a big win like that, the next week, if they play a big opponent again, what happens? They fall flat on their rear end. But not last week. Not last week. The next week, with all those NFL players on LSU, they beat LSU 42-21. If I'm in the coaching search at USC, you right now, Mark Stoops. He's below Chris Peterson. Mark Stoops. If you can win at Kentucky like that, are you kidding me? So they're 6-0. They beat LSU and Florida back-to-back. Blew LSU out. If you would have told me that 10 years ago and said in 2021, or if you told me in 2013, Kentucky hires Mark Stoops. If you had told me 8 years from now, they're going to beat Florida decisively. And the next week, they're going to beat LSU 42-21. I would say, no, man, you really need to sober up, okay? That's called wishful thinking. No, that's what happened, guys. This is the most impressive because I know how hard the competition is, and I know how down that their program is. I mean, yeah, they had Bear Bryant, but they still gave Adolph Rupp a car and Bryant nothing. I think he had like a ring or something. I don't know. When he won a lot of games, but it was always been a basketball school, you know? But here's a flashback for you guys. Okay? The last time that Kentucky thought they were going to beat LSU, one of the last times. I think this is pretty accurate. A coach named Guy Morris in November of 2002 had LSU beat. Pickles, do you remember this? They dumped Gatorade on this guy. It's like 20 seconds to go. Not even that. It's like 5 seconds. They kicked the ball off to LSU. And I think they get one playoff. LSU does. There's Gatorade on Guy Morris, the coach of Kentucky. And he's hugging his players. But then LSU throws the ball deep. And then they score. Very Stanford, Cal Stanford-like. So they score the touchdown. And they beat Kentucky. Even though Kentucky already poured Gatorade on the head coach. It's just not going to happen. There was no moment like that Saturday. Mark Stoops, they won 42-21. Now, what's the flip side of that? Well, when there's always a winner, there's always a loser, folks. Okay? Ed Orgeron, that's his third loss of the year. They had 5 losses last year. Now, the year before that, they won a national championship. I told you guys this last year, and I'm doubling down. This looks a lot like the Auburn, Gene Chizik, Cam Newton situation. Gene Chizik was booed, called a loser as soon as he got off the helicopter or got into his first press conference. People were hollering at him. Unlike Nick Saban when he was hired at Alabama from Miami Dolphins, he was met at the airport like he was a Beatle, like he was a rock star. It's on camera. It's crazy. It was a lot of fanfare. It was legit, right? But long story short, guy was always a mediocre coach at his other job, and he gets lightning in a bottle, gets Cam Newton. We talk about that. Went undefeated, won the national championship, came back 21 down against Alabama, and won that game, causing this guy, this nutcase, can't remember his name now, to poison some trees that people throw toilet paper on. When Auburn football team wins a game, Harvey something, Wingate or whatever. It's not Weinstein, by no means. But then he calls a radio station, Paul Feinbaum shows and tells about it. So, but I see this with LSU. There's some kind of he signed Ed Orgeron signed a big contract in the off season and of that 2019 year. I think he's going through a divorce. There's some mysterious, beautiful young blonde woman with him, and some guy called on his radio show and kind of made a remark about him with young girls or whatever, and he kind of spat off at the caller. And of course, on top of all that, they lose the game, get beat by Kentucky 42-21. He was already on the hot seat coming in 18-19. He has that one great season. You cannot take that away from him. You cannot take that away from Gene Chizik. And you look at all the other investigations where his name's being mentioned. It's a good chance that he could be can this year. Very good chance. He could be up there with, like I said this on the Mac and Jack show, the Pete Carroll of the world. That one surprise name that you might not expect to see on after the season go across the screen, that LSU has parted ways with Ed Orgeron. Little quick summarization of Seattle. Same thing up there. Too much power to Pete Carroll's got with player, developing player, and drafting players and all that stuff. A lot of reaching on their trades and all that. And the team's just not living up to par. They got a slight chance of making it. I know Russell Wilson's probably going to be about 4 weeks to get in, but I can see this team moving on from him. And in the college game, I could see LSU moving on from Ed Orgeron. But Harvey Updike, thank you, Pickles. Harvey Updike, yeah. So that's what I see. Going back to Mark Stoops, though. I mean, NFL teams, USC teams. I mean, that is a true rebuild. And he even made a comment going back to Mark Stoops that, and he done this because the team is playing well. He said that, and he's already signed an extension. He signed in 2020, let's see, receive an annual raise of $500,000 over the next 6 years. This was in 2019, 4.75 that will increase to $6 million a year. Now, I think it's like 9.5 that Saban makes. In order to keep him, you're probably going to have to give him close to what Saban makes. You know, you're going to have to keep his Mark Stoops, the Kentucky football coach, close to that. Mark Stoops calls for better indoor facility. That was back in September the 13th. He's making his demands because he's going to be in demand, Mark Stoops. And I don't know if he'd go to USC, but I think USC should call. I think USC should consider it. Thank you, Kathy. So this is a really good coach. It tells you the power of having a good coach. That's why they get paid the big bucks. More so in college football than anything. Because if you get a good coach, everything can change. Everything can change. When you start winning more, you start getting more revenue. Then you can update your facilities. Then you update your traveling expense. I mean, winning cures. Yeah, James Franklin has been taught. James Franklin's the favorite, from what I understand, of getting that USC job. If something crazy happens and Michigan falls off and Jim Harbaugh's forced out, maybe that job is open. What if Brian Kelly in Notre Dame takes an NFL job and then the Notre Dame job's open? So Mark Stoops will get offered. I think he can and should be mentioned in good jobs. But if I'm Kentucky, you get that indoor facility. Again, he made the comment about Mark Stoops calls for better indoor football facility. Well, what Mark Stoops asked for, he should get if you want to continue to make the University of Kentucky into a powerhouse. And, they play. Hold on, guys. They play Georgia this week. Now, if they beat Georgia, this guy's going to be in talks. The guys with the big platforms, much bigger than mine, we'll be talking about Mark Stoops and the big job. Say, for instance, if Franklin does take the USC job, James Franklin, coach of Penn State, then Stoops can take potentially that Penn State job. That's what I'm saying. So anyways, if you guys like the show, share the show. If you want to contribute to the program, go to the ZELLE app, and of course, sports, the word sports and then scope with the K, another S, another sports, and another S, KOPE at gmail.com. So have a good night, everybody. I'll be on Thursday. It's usually a shorter show because I want to get back to the game, do a little preview of the games, and maybe let's talk about other stories that are popping there in the wide world of the NFL and, of course, other sports. I want to add this. Like I said, I told you so. I thought, side note, Tyson Fury, did not watch it. Just backed out at the last second, but I heard it was a great fight. It was 12 rounds, as predicted on this program. Tyson Fury won. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, go back and listen to my take on the Raiders and Gruden and all that good stuff. But Fury won. Now, I will say this before I get off here. Tyson Fury, love you to death, man. 277. That's too much weight for you. Even at 6'6", 6'7", Wilder knocked him down a couple of times. His speed is just a tick off. So, and really, before he fights Anthony Joseph, I think Fury needs to get his weight down to the weight when he fought Wilder back in February. I think that would be the next thing he should do. He's got a good story. Guy come back from mental health problems, out of shape. He's really like a Rocky story. The Tyson Fury story is really good. A lot of his cockiness doesn't sit well with people, and his wanting to sing on the stage on set. I think he comes from a good place. I think he's sincere about his recovery, his mental health, and his drug issues, and his physical fitness. He was really, really fat and out of shape when he was in his downward spiral. Get back up to shape and into par, back up to par. It's a good story. The Tyson Fury story is a good story. And I like Wilder's a good guy, but Fury's a much more polished fighter. So he's an interesting guy to follow there. But anyways, he's 277. Tyson Fury's got to get his weight down. He needs to get closer to that 242. Whatever weight he was from last February before the pandemic in 2020, that's what he needs to be at. So anyways, have a good night, guys. I will see you Thursday around, give or take a few minutes. I usually like to get in about a minute to go before halftime of the NFL game, and we'll get in the show on Thursday. So have a good night, everybody. We'll see you Thursday here on Sports Scope.